Hi there, this is Greg Bloor. This is my video submission for assignment 3. I'm going to try to keep it under 10 minutes. We'll see how it goes. So to begin with, a little review. I interviewed Mr. K. He lives in Cairo, and his issue was his personal safety and security while living and teaching there. So, to get into it, the knowledge mobilization model that I use is, I posted it up there if you want to take a look. It's actually called a knowledge to action model. And why I picked this is because while it does incorporate research knowledge, it also brings in experiential knowledge. And it's big on collaboration between the knowledge producers, like the researchers and myself, and the knowledge user, which is Mr. K. And now this is essential, especially for this issue, because it's going to be largely dependent on the experiences of Mr. K and the situations that he finds himself in. And ultimately, he's going to be the only person able to really apply this knowledge effectively, because it's going to be based on his personal circumstances, his daily life. So I had to bring him into this process, and this model shows that. So just a quick, I'll just go over quickly. There's two parts to it. In the middle, you have your knowledge funnel. It's that triangle. What you do is you start off with all your knowledge, a whole bunch of stuff, everything you find, and through the funnel, it's getting tailored. We're tailoring this knowledge to his personal needs, and that's mostly done by me. And I'm trying to find out what's relevant for him. Next, you have your action cycle, which is going around here. I'm not going to go into it too much. You want to take a look there, but one important thing to note is that I picked this mainly because this is a fluid system process, right? You don't have to do the steps individually, one after the other. It's you can go in any order, and they're all affected by each other because he's the one who's going to use this process, and it's going to be different every time he does it. So again, it's not very rigid, it's not very structured, because it's meant to be used individually in different circumstances. So that's why I picked it. All right, next. What is the knowledge to be mobilized? All right, here we go. A little bit tough topic. It's a little bit specific. Personal safety and security in Cairo. So I had to dig, but I found some great stuff. So here we go. First one was kind of general practical knowledge I found from the CARE International Personal Safety and Security Handbook. Now this is something they give out to volunteers in at-risk areas in the field. And there's kind of procedures and routines to follow, background information on what to do in certain situations. So the first chapter is practical guidance on personal safety and security issues. So some sections that I found relevant to Mr. K were, what do we got here? Basic travel advice, safe vehicle use, information on checkpoints, taxis and public transport, communication systems, critical incidences, so on and so forth. The next chapter was specific guidance on a range of safety and security threats. Now, this is more serious stuff. You never know what could happen, though, so good knowledge to have. So some sections were what to do in case of mugging and street robbery, demonstrations, riots, and looting, abduction, kidnapping, and hostage taking, possible bombs or IEDs. So again, just good background knowledge to have, routines, procedures, what to do. Next was research papers that I found. So to keep them relevant to Mr. K and his, his context, I tried to find research articles that were written either during or after the 2011 revolution. I also tried to find ones that were, relevant to his context. So at least the Middle East, Egypt would be better. Cairo would be fantastic. I actually did find quite a few that were specific to Cairo, which was great. And also ones that were written by institutions from the area. So, for example, the American University in Cairo, I found a few. That's what I kind of looked for when I was finding these. The first one looks at kind of a macro view, and it looks more into the political situation in Egypt since the revolution, as it has to do with violence. So this one kind of brings three big scenarios to the attention of Mr. K. And the idea is to use these as warning signs. So if he sees in the news or anything, kind of those big picture warning signs, he kind of knows these three scenarios where he might say, oh, I think I might know what's going to happen next, and make his decision from there. Next, looks a little bit more micro view, and this one, I'm just going to read it. This one offers a more in-depth understanding of the physical layout of Cairo in relation to crime and violence. So this looks at how the city was built, the infrastructure, the neighborhoods. It kind of gives them an idea of what places are safe and which places are not safe. So certain things like, analyzing social aspects, the street network patterns, the land use are some big factors where you can kind of get a better understanding of areas, that are safe or not safe, or which ones to avoid. On the same note, another research paper that I found kind of looked at the public spaces in Cairo and how during the revolution and stuff, how the large crowds use these public spaces. And again, the idea is just to get a better idea of the city, which places are safe. If there is another rioting and demonstrations, he'll kind of know which areas are more prone to have these big crowds of people. And on that same note, I got another paper that looked at, the violent demonstrations in the Middle Eastern region. So this one kind of looked more at the behavior of these crowds. So even though it's best to avoid them, you never know if you do get caught in the midst of one, you'll have a better understanding of how to, deal with these big crowds. All right, number 3. How will this knowledge be mobilized? So I'm going to send him all these resources, but I don't expect him just to read them all. What I want him to do is just have them in case he wants to look at more information later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a PowerPoint presentation that's very concise, and it sticks to the main points that I think are important and the main findings from all these different resources. What I'll do is I'll send that to him and we'll Skype and we'll have a discussion. And I'll just go through these talking points. And the idea, again, relating back to the model, is I want his input. I want him to tell me, what's important. And we'll just have a loose, informal discussion. And it'll be back and forth, and that way we can get a little deeper on the relevant stuff. He can say, "Oh, that's interesting. I think, whatever, right?" And this way, I can find a way better idea of what is relevant to him. And then later, what I'll do is I'll take a look at this interview, and I'll make a summary of it. And when I'm doing the summary, I'm going to give him information based on the points that we talked about. And this will be a little bit more formal, and I'll send this to him. So things like quotations from the sources that I found relevant, diagrams, figures, background information, whatever I can. And it'll be a good summary, and I'll have information for him on the points that we found relevant. Because again, the more I hear from him, the more I'm going to understand what kind of information is really going to help him. What network of people is necessary for this plan to work? Because it's his personal safety and security, a large part of it is just him. I'm really just focusing on him in this situation. But that's not to say that, other people aren't going to help him. So I want to look at people that are in his life a lot. So people like his friends, his coworkers, I think they'd be great to bounce these ideas off of, especially the locals, if he can. And especially like his school, he said, they take a lot of precautions with their students to keep them safe. I think it'd be great to have them hear about some of these ideas and give them some insight. What positive outcomes do I expect? Like I said, from the papers, or the research papers, I want to give them a better understanding of the political situation since the revolution, better understanding of the physical layout of Cairo in the context of crime and violence, and, a better idea about the public gatherings and the behavior of the crowds there. I think this information is going to be helpful to him. But more so, he mentioned a fear of the unknown, and I want to tackle that. So instead of being reactive to danger, I want him to start becoming, proactively managing risk. I guess what I'm trying to say is, instead of looking at the things that are not within his control and being worried about them, start looking at the things that are within your control, and that'll help build confidence and hopefully bring peace of mind. What barriers to knowledge do I anticipate? One of the big ones is the nature of this issue. It's, personal safety and security in Cairo. It's a lot of it might be, wrong place, wrong time kind of stuff. So it's unpredictable. I think that's a big barrier. It's, there's a lot of different factors in the region. It's the Middle Eastern region, politics, economics, religion, environmental factors. So that unpredictability is going to be a bit of a barrier. So again, this goes back to model. I want it to be very personalized. I want him to have as much collaboration as possible, and I want him to just focus on things that are within his control. How's it respectful? Again, I think the fact that I brought him into the fold right from the start, I want his input, I want his collaboration is respectful. If I just gave him this presentation, like, here's the knowledge, here it is, and I just dictated it to him, he'd kind of be like, what do you know? He's really the one with the first-hand experience. He's there, by wanting his voice and his opinion and his input, I think he's going to, see the respect in that. So ultimately, he's the one who's going to know best and how to apply this knowledge best. And that's how I'm showing respect. Next one, how does this plan build trust? Well, again, I'm looking out, for his personal safety and security. And I'm sure he can tell that. And as I've been going through this project, I've started building more and more interest in it. And, I've internalized my motivation for it. I'm actually invested in the outcome. I want to do a good job. I want to see that I can actually help him. I'm actually having fun with this project. It's practical, real life stuff, and I travel a lot too around the world. So I'm very interested in this topic and his safety and security, and I think he's going to sense that. So I think that's going to build some trust between us. Well, it was a little bit long. If you listened to it all, thank you very much, and I'll cut it off there. Thanks for listening.